This is Canada Reads American Style, featuring two friends who love Canada Reads and Canadian literature. Welcome our host Rebecca from Michigan and Tara from Ontario. Hi everyone, it is Rebecca and Tara, and today our topic will be the Canada Reads shortlist. It was announced today. We are recording later in the evening of the day it was announced, and I am pretty excited. How about you, Tara?
I am very excited. I was waiting yesterday. I was like, oh my gosh, tomorrow is the announcement. And then I was waiting today, and then you sent me a text saying that had been released. And I was like so excited. It was like Christmas morning, which I love this feeling to starting the new year like this. Feels really good.
I completely agree. I felt the same way. I was really excited. In fact, I texted our friend Sarah because she texted me when the long list came out,
Hmm.
and so then I said, "Hey, do you mind tomorrow keeping me on track with the short list?" And unfortunately today she wasn't feeling well, so I was able to send it to her because I kept checking, kept refreshing because
Yep.
I knew it was going to be around 10 a.m. I figured that it was going to come out, and it did. So that was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
before we talk about it, what are you reading right now?
Okay. So I have a little bit of a couple different things going on. So, of course, I've been reading from the long list, getting ready for today. So, I've just finished recently reading The Winter Night by Jess Baddis, which did not make the short list. So, it was on the long list, but did not make the short list. Very quickly, it is a queer urban retelling of the King Arthur legend that take place in Vancouver. It
Hmm.
was very
Okay.
cool. Yeah, yeah. It was really interesting. I enjoyed the story, and there's like a bit of a mystery to it and stuff like this. But this book for me was all about the characters. I just really, really loved the characters and their story outside of the mystery. So, but it was a good one. Yeah. And other than that, so then I'm reading for the short list. I also have a big honking Stephen King book going. I'm reading Fairy Tale by Stephen King. And so I'm kind of dipping in and out of that one in between my Canadian lit.
So, is that a newer book? I don't read Stephen King, but is
Um,
that a newer book or has that been
it's
around a
just
while?
over a year old. Like I think
Oh,
it
okay.
was 2022, I believe it was released, fall of 2022, roughly.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Okay, I
it's
didn't
it.
even realize. Yeah, I've never read him, mostly because I can't really read horror. So,
Mhm.
I know he's great, but I I
Yeah,
have
this one you could read
avoided
because
that.
it's not a horror. It is a
Oh,
like fairy tale. It's his take on a fairy tale, modern day fairy
well,
tale.
let me just say, speaking of fairy tales, I started
Yes,
my goal
that's
of reading
right.
the Grimm fairy tales, and I swear to whatever, oh my gosh, like, right off the bat, it's shocking to me, like, how like, bad and evil and, like,
Yeah,
anyway, yeah,
grim.
and there was one that it's like the Virgin Mary
Mm,
is in it. Yeah, it's like and I'm like, "What? This is weird, a fantasy along with, the Bible story." That was kind of a weird thing, but
yeah,
it turned out it was very dark. It's very dark. So,
yeah.
yeah, totally, yeah, I know. Who
Are you
knew? Well,
enjoying it though?
oh, yeah,
Good.
absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait I think it's over 700 pages, so it's gonna take me a long time, but I do try to read at least one a day, and then along with my Project 562 book that I'm reading as well. But anyway, so and I know that we will talk more about the books. It's like, for example, Winter Night. You'll talk more about it at our next book chat,
Book chat.
number
Yeah.
14, that's coming up. Okay. So, okay. Well, is that it for you for what you're reading
Yeah.
currently? I
Yeah,
shouldn't
that's pretty
jump
much
right
it.
in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm at an in-between stage too. Like I just finished The
Hmm.
Winter Night and haven't yet started a new one. So I just have the Stephen King one going on in between kind of thing. So yeah, that's it. What about you?
Okay. So I am currently reading Junie. I did the same thing. I was
Mm,
trying to read books off the long list, hoping that they would be on there. And so I'm reading Junie. I'm a little more than halfway done. and really enjoying it. And I
Good.
know you did read it,
I
right?
did, yes.
So I cannot wait to get to the end. I just have this thing I need to have happen. And again, I'll talk more about it in our book chat. But that's basically what I'm reading, I think. And again, my other stuff that just for my goal. So,
Yeah.
but let's get into, because I'm really excited, but let's get into our short list from Canada Reads. And
Yeah.
what about your predictions? How did you do prediction wise?
Oh, terrible. I got
Oh,
1 out of 5.
well, okay, but that's
Yeah,
you got one.
I
So
got 1. Yep.
was it Bad Cree?
No, it was the future. Because I actually chose Bad
That's
Medicine
right.
over
That's right.
Bad Cree just because I've read Bad Cree, so I'm like, "I'm gonna go for one that I haven't read."
Yes.
So,
Now I remember.
yeah,
Yeah. Now, have you read The Future yet?
I have.
Okay.
I had hoped that it's on before reading it, I wanted it on there just because I really like this author,
Hmm.
Catherine Leroux, and after reading it, I think it fits perfectly for the theme of, like, resilience and, they had a sp another there's another phrase for, like, continuing on, moving forward. I think it fits the theme perfectly, so I'm super excited to see it on the list.
Yeah. And I agree, because The Future was one that I had so I had 3 out of 5, which has
Yeah.
actually kind of been my record. I think I've been getting 3 out of 5 the last few years. I have to go back and look at all my years and stuff and see what my stats are for that, but I picked The Future because I agree with you. I read it as well. I think it really fits the theme, if the theme stays that way with resilience and everything. And then let's see, what the heck else was it? Oh, Shut Up, You're Pretty. I picked that one. I've read that one as well, but I read it when it came out, so I'll have to kind of re-look at it. And then Denison Avenue, which I also read and absolutely loved. And I just want to say, now I still have to read Bad Cree, and then we'll talk
Yeah.
in a minute about the other one, but I really want Denison Avenue to win. Like, that is
Really?
one I am championing. Yes. Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
you're calling it early.
I'm calling it, well, I'm not calling that it will win. I'm saying
No, no,
yes,
you're
yeah, yeah.
calling your prediction, what you or not prediction, what you want to win.
Yeah, because I figure I've read
Yeah,
3 wait a minute, yeah, 3 out of them, and Bad Cree, I still have to read Bad Cree, which I have a copy of, thank you to Colleen, and then the last one, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I love Denison Avenue so much, and I think it's such a creative way to tell this story with the images and the text, and so and I'm not gonna go into it in great detail just because, again, I'll talk about it more at our book chat, but I think it's a really unique type of title, but I also think the idea of gentrification and, you know, these anyway, I'm not gonna go into it right now, but yes, that is the one I 100% want Denison Avenue to win. So,
mm,
I'm just going out on a limb there. So,
nice. Well,
yeah.
I cannot, make that statement yet because I
Mhm.
still have, I think I've read 2 of them. I've read Bad Cree and The
Mhm.
Future, and then Denison Avenue, I'm waiting for my hold. Meet Me at the Lake as well, and what is the 5th one that I'm missing here?
Shut Up, You're Pretty.
Shut Up, You're Pretty, yes, I haven't read that one either, so I'm waiting on that one as well from the
Yeah, and I like that one. I'm pretty sure when I read it, like I said, when it came out, I think I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I liked it, but I didn't love it, like
Mhm,
5-star love it, but I
yeah,
did really enjoy it, and I actually was hoping to talk to the author, but at the time when I asked her, she said she was not doing interviews at that time, and, so I'm really excited for her to be on the short list, though, because I do think it's definitely a book worth reading, and I did enjoy it, so but I'll look at it again, like I said,
yeah,
so but let's talk about the fact that we have 2 genre books. R is
yes.
would you consider is Bad Cree kind of a horror genre type book?
It's marketed as horror, I think I don't consider it a horror book, it has horror elements in it,
Okay.
but I would if once I read it, I'm like, "I don't really think it's horror." It's a
Mhm.
really good story with horror elements, but to each their own, maybe, you know, maybe others would think of it as horror, but it's definitely a different book for Canada Reads, I think.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've read it, and so can you think well, let me ask you this. Having read it,
Yep.
do you think it meets the resilience
Oh,
theme?
yes,
It
totally.
does? Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
no, I think it's a great book for the theme. Yeah, I do.
I mean, I will say
Mhm.
that is very interesting because I don't know what the book is about in, great detail because don't like to know too much, but I'm glad to know that it meets the theme really
Yeah,
well.
I think you're really gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, and that it's yeah, everybody I think I've seen who's read it has really enjoyed it, so
Yeah.
and then the other thing also is the fact that it's not like a true horror, so it kind of maybe skirts that genre label a little bit, do you
Mhm.
think?
I
Maybe?
think so, because I think
Yeah.
the story that Jessica Johns is telling is just a really great story, and she's worked horror elements into it that just, like, transcend the story, like, just like, that just really spotlight some of the issues that she's discussing.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, we've seen this before where they market a book, so I'm just gonna say this much about the future. And again, I'll talk more on the book chat. But to me, definitely the author spent time in Detroit. She said she did. I read and saw some interviews and stuff. So she spent time in Detroit. She really nailed the essence of Detroit, even currently, right?
Mhm.
What I thought was really odd the way that it was marketed, and I think others kind of, I talked to somebody else who also kind of agreed with me that I didn't like they sort of said like, oh, well, the French, you know, maintained possession of Detroit, but I didn't really get this real French influence, like, to me, it could
Yeah,
have been anybody. So to me, that was marketed in a way that I was excited to see, well, how could the French have done something different? And to me, the French were hardly even an element in the story at all, so I think it's a
yeah.
weird way to market that book. So maybe it's the same, like, with Bad Cree, it's not really a horror book, but it's kind of marketed that way.
Yeah, I agree. I was expecting more of a French influence as well in Detroit, where it was really more just the street names and park
Mhm.
names. Like, locations had French names to them. That's kind of the only French influence I saw
Yeah.
on Detroit.
Yeah, so I thought that was a weird way to
Yeah,
market it, so God bless their little hearts. They did not I don't think they nailed that very well. So, but
yeah,
it's okay because I did enjoy the story as well, but I kept sort of waiting for that French influence, and I wasn't really seeing it. So,
yep,
anyway.
I agree. I'm interested now once you read Bad Cree to see
Mhm.
if you agree with me.
Yeah.
Or are you like, "No, Tara, I found that was a horror book for me."
Interestingly, remember I read the Stephen Graham Jones
Yeah.
what was the Last Indian, or what was that
Uh,
called?
oh, Only Good Indians.
Only Good
Only Good
Indian? Yeah.
Indian?
And, well, I sort of felt like that horror, because I was really worried about reading it, and I
Mhm.
sort of went into it being pretty like, "Okay, I'm gonna be pretty scared reading this," and a little bit there was a little bit, I think, in the beginning that kind of went like I made me kinda take a step back, but
Yeah,
overall, I wasn't really
yeah,
scared through that whole story, so I felt really good that I wasn't as scared as I thought I was going to be, so Bad Cree will be interesting to see how I handle the horror
yeah.
elements in that.
I think you'll be fine.
Okay, I hope so, but
Yeah,
yeah. But we really have to talk about the book that made the list that I think is a little controversial is too strong of a word, but I do think makes a huge statement. Do you wanna talk about Meet Me at the Lake?
sure. So, a romance. The first
Yeah.
romance on Canada Reads, right, in its history.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Is it
I
is it,
think
like,
so.
really in the history, you think?
I think so. I thought that's what I'd
Wow.
read somewhere. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Maybe I should have done a little more research into that, but I thought I read a little blurb that, the defender, who I can't remember her name right now,
Yeah, she
had
did say that it was the
yeah.
first. Yeah. Mhm.
So, yeah, that is, exciting and interesting.
Mhm.
I have not read this book, as I told you. There was a lot of hype and buzz around this book when it was published a couple of years ago. I'm
Mhm.
not normally a romance reader, and I also don't like reading a book with a lot of buzz because I'm always afraid that the buzz is going to bring the book down for me anyways, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Like maybe if I hadn't heard the buzz, it's a book I could have really enjoyed, but the buzz brings up my expectations too much and it kind of
Mhm.
like dulls the experience for me. So I haven't read this book. I think I was going to, like in the future, within the next year or so, I was probably going to pick up this book anyways.
Mhm.
Um, so I am looking forward to it. I'm not sure how about it being here, but I am interested to read it to see how it fits the theme of
Mm.
resilience. I just can't wrap my head around that that will be there.
Mhm.
But maybe it's because I haven't read a lot of like romances. So maybe there's more depth to it than I'm giving it credit at the moment.
Well, I have to laugh because I just typed it in here.
Hmm.
Hold on a second. I just borrowed it. Meet Me at the Lake. It's available in my libraries,
Okay.
like, immediately. So,
Oh, wow.
wow, okay. So I and obviously in Canada. I looked at the one, in Canada, and it was like a 20-week hold on it.
Okay.
So and this I'm talking about ebook copy.
Yeah.
So I was able to just get it. So I'll take a look at it. I said I wasn't going to read it, but I'll take a
Yeah.
look at it, the beginning of it and everything. Again, and I apologize to everyone who's heard me say this 5 million times, but I read so many romances when I was young that I just can't read them anymore. They just feel too formulaic for me anymore. So I love a great romance in a story, but I don't read like genre romance books. And I will give that one a try. I wasn't going to, but since
Oh,
it's
okay.
available immediately, I'll go ahead and see what it's about.
This is breaking news, listeners, because the last time I spoke to Rebecca earlier today,
Yes.
she was like, I am not reading it. And I'm like, that's okay. I'm going to read it for the both of us. That's
Yep.
fine.
You did.
So look at her, just like holding back.
Well, no, I just
No, I'm
literally while you
joking.
were saying that, I know, but
Yeah.
that's what's so funny is it's freaking available. So,
Yeah.
and I know everybody in Canada has talked about this fact that it's on a long wait list and everything.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'll take a look at it, but I don't know. I I'm really excited really for that one to be defended because
Yeah.
I think the person who's defending it, which again I don't not know her name either. I didn't recognize any of the people to be honest with you, but I think it's a bold move on her part, and it's so funny because every year people have said, "Oh, there's always, like, one book that's the weakest of the 5,"
Hmm.
and in a way, just because of the genre, I feel like this is the weakest one, but I hope she comes out b guns blazing and makes her
Yeah.
case,
Yeah.
because it's a bold move, and I hope she can back it up, you know?
Yeah. I think she's going to have that. She's going to have a fierce fight on her hands,
I think so too.
especially not only for the genre. I think that unfortunately that does, it's a tick against her
Mhm.
book by some people, like, I'm not dissing it, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just
Right.
some people who want this to be a very literary
Mhm.
contest, that's gonna be a tick against it, and at the moment, I haven't read it. I just
Mhm.
not sure how it's gonna hold up with the theme, again, but I don't even know anything about it except that it takes place in Muskoka, cottage country, so I
Mhm.
don't even know what the plot of it is.
Yeah, for me, when I think about a book that all of Canada should read, I I mean, no offense to the genre books because again, oh gosh, what's the name of the author? Sherry Lapina, talks about the value of genre literature and
Mhm.
why it's doesn't get the respect it's due. But at the end of the day, when you think about something that everybody should read, that's maybe kind of why. Well, actually, though, maybe the genre would fit better for a book that everyone should read. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It might be more accessible. Like, as
yeah.
much as we loved The Future, right, by
Hmm.
Catherine Leroux, it's a very dark book. Like,
Yes.
I did finish it with, like, a sense of hope, and the resilience theme is strong in that one, but it is dark and grim, you know,
Hmm.
because there's that group of children that live there,
Yeah.
like orphan children that live in one of the parks. Why they're there, their stories are brutal.
Yeah.
So, maybe something like Meet Me at the Lake is much more accessible, right?
But how many men do you think would read it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what the readership is for Canada
Yeah.
Reads, if it's predominantly women versus men. I don't know, but yeah.
And another strike against it could be it's had its moment. It's
Yeah.
like it has been a extremely successful book up here in Canada.
Mhm.
Extremely successful. She was at Eden Mills a couple of years ago. And
Wow.
yes, and the lineup to see her Rebecca was huge. Like to see her
Yeah.
after her reading and to have their book signed. It was a huge lineup for her. And I was the lone person in my lineup for another author. So, it's
Yeah.
she's had her moment. So that could also be like a strike against her. Like this book has already had its moment. She's got a second book out, which I think is also been very successful.
Mhm.
Maybe the spotlight should shine on another book. This one's already found its audience. I'm arguing against it already, and I haven't even read it, and that's terrible. And I'm open to it, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're just, let's face it, we're at this point, we don't know everything in terms of that we don't really know the defenders that well
Mhm.
yet. We'll start to see more, they'll interview them and we'll see all kinds of information about them as well. Because as much as what was the guy last year that was it Gurdeep? Was that his name? The one
Yes.
who was just so kind and just such a lovely human being
Yeah.
that the competition wasn't really fit for him because he was just too nice, right?
Yeah.
So even though his book, which was oh gosh, now I can't think of it. I can think of what the storyline was, but I can't think of the title.
Hotline. Was it Hotline?
Yes, Hotline,
Yeah.
yes. Hotline, even though so many people absolutely loved Hotline, he just didn't have the fire in his belly to be able to, sort of you gotta still it's a competition, you gotta be
Yeah.
able to take other people out, and I don't think he
Yeah.
had that capacity, so we'll have to
Yeah.
see who these defenders are, and the one who's defending Denison Avenue is the former mayor of Calgary or something,
Yes.
so I don't know why he was I mean, I think it's fun. I can't
Mhm.
wait to see who he is and how he does,
Yeah.
and I have to laugh because of the defenders, I was like, "I wanna talk to him." I just think it's interesting. Is a former mayor of Calgary, like, who is he?
Yeah.
So, I just thought he might be kind of fun to talk to,
Yeah.
so, anyway.
I'm also what do you think about So Shut Up You're Pretty is a short story collection, right?
Mhm, yeah.
What do you think about that for being the book that all of Canada reads? There haven't been a lot of short story collections, I don't think.
Yeah, and I don't even yeah, because 'cause I'm only, again, so many years into this, so I don't think obviously, during my time, there hasn't been a short story collection. I don't know if one's ever
Yeah.
won, but I definitely think it's the theme for resilience. I think whoever I can't remember who's defending it, but that is definitely the theme throughout that story I mean, throughout that book. So, even though I can't, remember the stories individually at this point,
Mhm.
I do know that it was absolutely about resilience. So, I think in that sense, I think the person whoever is defending it could really make that great case for it.
Yeah.
So, oh, I think it's gonna be a good
Yeah.
competition.
Now, is there anything that book that you're disappointed didn't make it?
Yes, I haven't gotten all the way through Junie, but
Yeah.
and again, I'm gonna just go based on the fact that you liked it, and I know you always really want to see a hopeful ending to a book. So I'm going to assume that these two beautiful young girls, Estelle and Junie, are resilient and hopefully have a happier ending than what I'm experiencing right now. But I would have loved to have seen somebody argue this case about Junie.
Me
How do
too.
you feel about that book?
That's the book I was disappointed didn't make it as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah. Because I really, really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the writing, the setting. I think it would have been a great book. I would have loved to have seen.
But to me, that this one's like again only a little more than halfway, but
Mhm.
it feels so tragic and so painful. These two young girls who both have mothers who aren't invested in them, and it's just I don't I was thinking to myself, I don't think I've ever read a book where two kind of main characters are having the same life experience You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's sort of this parallel experience that they're both having, and I don't, again, know how it plays out, but I love it for that alone because it
yeah,
is true. Just j when somebody is going through something, you're not the only person going through it. There will be other people in your life, you may or may not know it, but they're going through something similar, and yet that's what I love about this book is that they're going through this kind of together. So
yeah.
anyway.
I also loved the setting. I loved 1930s,
Mhm, yes.
East Vancouver, and it's
Mhm,
like a beautiful community that the girls live in, that they're
mhm,
supported. So even if they're not I find if they're not getting support from their mothers, from their
mhm.
family at home, they've been able to find, especially Junie, in other places, either from their teachers. I think Junie, they
Yeah,
have a
with
great
Shirley.
teacher,
Mhm,
yeah, and the bookstore owner. Like there's such a
mhm.
community in there, and so I really liked that aspect of it, and I liked because at the moment, for East Vancouver is known as one of the most
Yeah.
uh, horrific neighborhoods in the country, right? Like a huge high criminal rate, uh,
Drugs,
drugs,
addiction.
homelessness,
Yeah,
addiction, prostitution. It's not got a great reputation. So I loved seeing a spotlight put on this community at a time in its past when it truly was a different type of community.
yeah. That's true. I love that as well, and I love it's like you said, the characters that are there who are supporting Junie, they're so critical to the story and to her growth and her resilience. So,
Yep.
anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, well, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, so that is like of the 4 books, so the 4 of the 5 we know have like really strong resilience themes, or we so
Mhm,
I am hopeful for Meet Me at the Lake, actually.
mhm.
I'm very excited to read it, actually, one way or the other.
Yeah, let me go back now and ask you, do
Yeah.
you think Winter Night could have fit the theme, and are you disappointed that it didn't make the list?
No. I really enjoyed the book, but
Mhm,
I'm not sure. I don't think that it had a certain element of resilience in these characters, and that they keep living these stories essentially over and over in their lifetime, right? From King Arthur's time to the present day, they just keep coming back and reliving these lives, the legend,
mhm,
but in different times. But I don't think it has that same type of resilience that you've seen that are in the other books.
mhm.
And I'm not sure that it could have been defended as
Okay.
strongly.
Yeah,
However, I really enjoyed this book,
yeah,
and I suggest, like, if anyone is interested in it, then pick it up because uh, the characters were so diverse and so well written that, like I said, there is a bit of a mystery element in that the knights are being killed and who's killing them, but that is
ooh,
secondary to the characters,
yeah,
which I guess that's the resilience part of it, right? So
yeah. And this is a book that was not on your radar before Canada Reads, correct?
no, it was. I had heard an interview with the author a couple of months previous to the long list being announced. So it was on my list to read anyways.
Oh,
So
okay.
then once it made the long list, then it bumped it up because
Yeah. So I'm just curious. I was just gonna look really quick, and I know I wasn't gonna drag this podcast out today, but I am gonna look really quick
okay.
to see if there's anything else on the long list that I'm kinda bummed didn't make it. So
Yeah,
I wanted to look really quick here. Let's see here.
I don't think
Oh,
there's
Michael Crummy, The
yes.
Innocents. What do you think about that?
Um, Disappointed, but not really surprised.
Okay, because that one had a strong theme, right?
Yeah. But that one with the sibling relationship might be difficult for some people to,
Mhm.
but amazing book. Amazing book.
Oh, the other one I wanted, which I haven't read or anything, but was, Reuniting with Strangers. I
Mhm.
really kinda wanted to read that well, I mean, I could still read it, but I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
was kinda hoping it would be on there, and I
It's
definitely wanna put a hold on Bad Medicine, so or get a copy, so
It's yeah, I'm looking forward to Bad Medicine as well. Interestingly, there's no nonfiction, right? It's all fiction this year.
that is correct.
Yeah. There was only
Huh.
one nonfiction in the long list anyways, right? I believe it was just the Mama Sketch.
Yep. Mhm. Yeah, it
So, I mean, the
was.
chances of there being a nonfiction was slim, but I like this, and I love nonfiction, but I like this leaning towards fiction that Canada Reads has been really following in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our review or our opinions about the short list, which we're both excited about. And we now get to continue reading and then
Yep.
uh and then be ready for and then we always do try to reach out to some authors and some defenders. So stay tuned. We'll see if we can get anybody this year, which will be interesting. And
Yeah.
we'll give it a
Yeah.
try.
Yeah. And if you have any opinions of your own, leave them in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or send us a DM or an email. We would love to hear from you. And happy reading. Thank you for joining us on our bookish journey. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing Canada Reads American Style wherever you listen. You can connect with the podcast and Rebecca on Instagram at Canada Reads American Style, and with Tara at On a Branch Reads. Until next time, keep reading.